Welcome to this Skill Builder video on working with Microsoft Excel. Excel is Microsoft's proprietary spreadsheet application and is available to all University of Kent students via Office 365. A spreadsheet is an electronic document where data is arranged into a grid or table consisting of rows and columns. In essence, a spreadsheet is an electronic version of an old-fashioned account or ledger book, but with two significant advantages. Firstly, it has much greater data storage capacity. Currently, spreadsheets have more than 16,000 columns and 1 million rows, which equals over 16 billion cells in total. At default magnification, a single spreadsheet would cover 4 square kilometers. The second advantage is that a spreadsheet allows you to perform calculations, to sort, organize and filter your data, to process your data using descriptive statistics or other advanced analytical techniques, and all to an extremely high level of accuracy and confidence. This video is aimed at anyone who is new to using Excel and will take you through some of its basic functionality. In this video, we'll create a new workbook, enter data and construct a simple formula. We'll use the autofill function and apply number, date and border formatting. We'll then look at some more advanced mathematical functions and finally create a basic chart. In order to do this, we'll use the example of a simple balance sheet. First of all, we need to open up a new blank workbook. The basic Excel document format is called a workbook because it can comprise more than one spreadsheet, each of which can contain either independent or interrelated data. To add another spreadsheet to this workbook, all we'd need to do is to click on the plus button. We can also copy, move or delete entire spreadsheets if necessary. For our example, one sheet is fine. To start on our balance sheet, we'll click on the first cell we want to label and then start typing, date. As you can see, what we're typing also appears in what's called the formula bar just above the column labels. If we want to then change whatever we've typed into a cell, we can do this in the formula bar or double click and edit the cell itself. Once we finish typing, hitting the return or arrow keys will move us to another cell. We can then label the remaining columns of our spreadsheet. Incomings, outgoings, balance. As the labels for a couple of our columns are longer than the columns are wide, we can easily increase their width. To do this, we can move the cursor to the line on the label bar, and when it changes to the resizing cursor, just drag this to the right or left to change the column width. Alternatively, if we wanted a range of columns to be exactly the same width, we can click inside the first column label and then drag the cursor across the relevant columns. Right-clicking then opens up a drop-down menu with the option column width. We can then input a value equal to the number of characters we want the cell to display, in this case 12. To format our labels, we can use the usual methods. Click and drag to highlight the required cells, then bold and centered. To input our date column, we just need to start typing in the appropriate cell something that looks like a date. Say 30th of October. Excel recognizes that this is a date and will then format the cell accordingly. Looking at the formula bar, you can see the full date in UK European style. If we then want to input the rest of our data range, Excel will be able to do this automatically. Click on the right cell to highlight it, then on the small tab on the bottom right, where the cursor changes to a small plus sign. Dragging this slowly down, a small dialog box opens up on the right, which shows us the value of the latest cell in our range. And if we keep dragging down, the spreadsheet will move upwards so we can see where we want to end, 30th of November. The autofill function works vertically and horizontally for any recognizable sequence of values and can save a lot of time. Since our balance sheet is going to calculate the daily account balance, the next step will be to input a formula that will perform this function. Before we do this, however, we need to bear in mind that Excel can perform two types of calculation. The first are where the cell displays the product of a calculation. For example, we can input a calculation into any cell, say 100 divided by 4 times 3.5. The cell will now display the answer, while the formula bar will display the formula. Also note that you'll need to prefix the first value in any calculation with either plus or minus or equals to tell Excel that this is a formula rather than text. The second way Excel performs calculations is by taking values from different cells and processing them as required. Since our balance is going to be based on our incomings and outgoings values, this is the type of formula we will be using. We'll need a starting balance first of all, which we'll input here, 2675. We can then input the formula directly below in cell D3. The value to display in this cell is going to be equal to the value of the balance directly above, plus the value in the cell 2 places to the left, incomings, minus the value in the cell 1 place to the left, outgoings. In each case, we're using a combination of cell locations and mathematical functions to create our formula. So the cell is now displaying the calculated value while the formula bar is displaying the formula, D2 plus B3 minus C3. If we then add values into the relevant incomings and outgoing cells, we can see the new balance being recalculated for each change. The autofill function can then be used to copy our formula to the bottom of our balance sheet. And in each case, Excel has maintained the relationship of the value of the cell above plus the value 2 to the left minus the value 1 to the left. We can now input values anywhere in the balance sheet and see the final balance changing. Now that the balance sheet is functioning correctly, we can improve its appearance using the formatting tools. Since we're showing financial data, we can format the cells for currency. Highlight all the cells we want to format, then right-click. Then Format Cells, then Currency. 2 decimal places, GB pound symbol, negative values highlighted in red, and OK. Similarly, we can change the date format. Highlight, right-click, then Format Cells, choose the desired format, and OK. If we then want to add a title to our balance sheet, the first thing we'll need to do is insert a blank row above it. Click inside the desired row label, then right-click, then Insert. Then we can add our title, Card Account Balance Sheet. We can then use the Merge and Center function on the Home ribbon. Highlight the cells you want to center the title across, then click on Merge and Center. Finally, we can add borders to our table. Highlight the whole table, then right-click, then Format Cells, then Borders, then, in this case, a thick outside border and thin internal borders. And OK, our finished balance sheet. Of course, Excel is capable of far more sophisticated analysis than our simple balance sheet. Say, for example, we wanted to analyse our spending pattern in more detail by calculating our average daily outgoings. All we'd need to do is choose the cell we want the value to display in, then go to the Formula tab on the ribbon bar. Then click on the Insert Function button. In the Insert Function menu box, we can then type average into the search bar. Then go, and then choose the straightforward average function, and OK. This opens up another menu box which allows us to specify the range of cells of which we want to calculate the average. We can then use the cursor to select the relevant cells, C4 to C34, and then click OK. We now know that our average daily outgoings are £14.27. And in this case, even if we move the cell containing the function, we can see that the cell range stays the same. We could then use the AutoSum function to calculate our total monthly outgoings. Simply choose the cell to display the value, then click on AutoSum on the Formulas ribbon. AutoSum will always assume that you want to add up the values above it, so all we need to do is to manually highlight the correct cells again using the cursor and hit Enter. We can now see that our total monthly outgoings for November are £442.42. Finally, if we wanted to do a visual analysis of our monthly spending, we can very quickly create a chart in Excel. First, use the cursor to select the data range we want to use. Then go to the Insert tab, then to Recommended Charts, in this case the line chart option at the top, and OK. The chart's OK, but not quite what we want. We only want to show our balance values, so if we click on the small square on the top left corner of the blue highlighted box and drag it to the left, we can reduce the data set to the one correct column. Then, when we let go, the chart is redrawn accordingly. This is better, but the date labels along the horizontal axis are in the wrong position. To move them, click inside the chart to highlight them, which will also open up the Format Axis options to the right. If we scroll down to Labels, we can then change the label position to Low. Last of all, if we then wanted to show graphically how our actual daily outgoings related to our average daily outgoings, Excel can do this easily. Click on the chart, then on Chart Design on the ribbon bar, then on Add Chart Element at the far left, then on Trend Line and Linear. A proper title, delete the series number key, And we now have our finished chart. Thank you for watching this Skill Builder session on working with Excel. If you'd like to follow up on any of the topics covered, please follow the QR code to book a one-to-one appointment with a student learning advisor.